What about someone that you'd known maybe earlier on in your career, worked at it with a different company 10, 15 years ago? You bump into them at a conference and they hear about the great work that you're doing with Deep Green, but they're not quite as locked into what they're doing with their career. They may be feeling a little bit of sense of burnouts. They've been through a lot of companies that have been through large layoffs or something like that. And they're looking to you for advice. And they say, Mark, I want to stay doing something with digital infrastructure. I'm really inspired to lead change around the sustainability. This heat reuse movement seems really like it's got a tremendous amount of value for on so many different levels. What advice would you give to someone like that in a client-facing kind of role that's looking for a little mini career reboot?
It's difficult. We have a saying. We used to have a saying in our venture capital company that when we're unplugging, I guess rather rudely, but I guess we didn't mean it like this, but corporate refugees, right? So I think whenever we all get anchored where we are, So some sort of resilience and flexibility around mindset is always going to be important. And it's very easy to say that. I think. And part of that is being when we only read when we're in our own filter bubble and we only read what we want to hear or what we're familiar with. I think it's increasingly difficult, isn't it, in this day and age, to actually read the other side of the other argument, whether that's in politics or wherever it is. I still, what we're doing is certainly not it's not received wisdom as we know by any stretch of the imagination. And I think, and when I say kind of, if anyone's been in a large organization or been somewhere for a long time, then it's often the case that stepping into a small organization is where you're going to find a different way of doing something, or a perhaps more social, perhaps more sort of anchoring on what we think of the great transition and what's coming as the climate changes. So you're going to be, if you want to change, then you're going to find yourself in a smaller organization, and I think that then has its own charms and downsides and upsides. So I'll give you we start our senior leadership team meeting every Friday with group therapy, so we all check in. Now you probably wouldn't do that in a large organization, but in a small organization, because you all need to hear sometimes bad news, and you all need to have a lot of faith and a lot of trust in each other. You need a lot of psychological safety. So any way towards psychological safety is beneficial, and part of that we found over the years is checking in emotionally, genuinely checking in emotionally. I'm not doing so well this week because of X. So it's often in what you'd hope to be kind of relatively well-run smaller businesses, there are very, very different ways of working that if you have been in a larger organization, or if you've been used to working in a certain way, I think good small organizations are quite different. And I think a lot of people are quite surprised at how different that is.